Welcome to the Courageous Entrepreneur Show. This is the show that shares information and inspiration to help you break free from self-doubt, limiting beliefs, and disempowering patterns, and break through to create the thriving, successful business you dream of and deserve. I'm your host, Winnie Anderson. The show features interviews with entrepreneurs who've overcome amazing challenges to create success on their terms and experts who share insight and practical information to help you move forward with courage, confidence, and clarity, so you, the introverted, mission-driven entrepreneur, consistently reaches your biggest goals. If you like what you hear, I hope you'll share the show with others, and be sure to visit winnieanderson.com/social butterfly, all one word, to get the show notes and worksheet for this episode. As a solo professional or micro firm owner, I'm sure you're always looking for ways to get your message out easier, faster, and to a bigger audience. Of course, that means we're turning to social networking and social media. In this episode of the Courageous Entrepreneur Show, Ellen McDowell, the social butterfly, dispels some myths, simplifies things, and helps you get your head around what you should post and where to post. Ellen is a teacher, trainer, and lover of tech and wine. She specializes in teaching small business owners how to get their message out using social networking and social media tools. Ellen is an honors graduate from the University of Georgia, where she received her master's degree in historic preservation. She also holds several certifications, including as a constant contact solution provider, a SCORE mentor. She lives in the Baton Rouge, Louisiana region, and is an LSU superfan. Remember, my guests and I aren't giving you specific business advice. The information we're sharing is for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you need help, be sure to seek out a trained professional, whether it's a financial advisor, tax professional, business building expert, or healthcare provider. Listen in as Ellen shares how her work found her rather than the other way around, the difference between social media and social networking, the one thing you need to do on every social site, the kind of posts you should share, how to figure out what platforms to focus on, why sharing personal information, within reason of course, is actually important, and how to decide what to share, how to decide when you need help with your social presence and social content, and what to consider when hiring someone for that role. As always, listen all the way to the end, where I'll share your cocktail exercise and action step for this episode. All right, Ellen, thanks so much for being with me today. We're going to dive right in. I'm excited to have you here.
I am so excited to be here, Winnie.
So let's start off with just a little bit of your journey. What led you to go out on your own as a solo professional, and how did you find this unique specialty?
Well, 7 years ago, actually almost to the day, because I saw a thing on Facebook that says, commented that I was getting my resume together. I was informed that I was no longer needed at the online school where I was teaching. And so I started trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to do next? Do I want to find another professor position? Do I want to go back into interior design? What do I want to do? And a friend of mine said, well, why don't you help me with, my email marketing and my Facebook while you're looking for a job? And that sounded really good to me. I did not want to go on unemployment. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I just didn't, if there was a way for me not to. I thought that would be good for my psyche. And so I started helping her with her Facebook, marketing and her email marketing. And then somebody else asked if I needed some help, and the email marketing company said they have a speaking, they gave you presentations, you go speak. And so here I am 7 years later, and I am Ellen McDowell, your social butterfly.
That's great. Yeah, and I love that name, by the way. I think that's so clever. So that's great. It maybe not so much that you found your specialty, but your specialty found you then, right?
Yes. It did. And always from the very first position that I had, I was always trying to figure out how to market myself because nobody was doing it for me. I was, an interior designer at a big furniture store, and they marketed the furniture store. But once they got in there, I needed them to ask for me and not just depend on anybody who came up to them.
Yeah.
So I was always marketing myself from my very first position. And so it isn't something that's so abnormal, but I was always good on the computer, and it works very well. I love helping the small business person to figure out both the technology of marketing today, as well as how to market and how to get their passion out there.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's really awesome that you were able to, maybe you were kind of forced into that role of marketing yourself inside the organization, but so often people wind up out on their own, whether it's a voluntary thing, an involuntary thing like mine, or accident or whatever. And then you're like, well, now what? I don't know how to do this. And then I feel icky doing it. So good for you that you've had a long history of needing to do it. Cause I think we all need to do it to a degree, right? It's just to build that reputation.
Yes. Just to build the reputation and to make sure that we're coming up in front of people's minds in some way.
Right.
Every once in a while.
Right. Yeah. At least every once in a while. Absolutely. So let's dive into this and start by getting everybody on the same page with the terminology, because we hear the term social media, we hear social networking. People use those terms interchangeably sometimes, and I'm not always sure they should be. So give us your 2 cents on that. What do these things mean, and should they be used interchangeably? Is that okay?
No, I don't think that they're really interchangeable. We have our social networks. Right. Where, that's networking, where we're talking with each other, where maybe we're word of mouth marketing, where you have those people that you are friendly with socially that are giving your name out and whatnot, whether it is online or whether it is in person, versus, social marketing is actually where you are kind of creating your own content and putting out there what it is you do and how you do it. And for lack of a better word, screaming it out to the world.
Yeah. So then the media piece of that's truly the modality, if you will, right? Whether we're using video or blogging or some other type of truly media.
Right.
Okay, great. So there are lots of different platforms out there, of course. It's mind-numbing. It's not just the big 4 that we're used to hearing about. Do you think that these gurus who tell you you've got to be everywhere all at once, are they right? Do we need to do that? Or do you think that we should focus just on a specific one?
While I do think you need to go and claim your space on each of them, as far as trying to be out there and trying to be everywhere at once, no. Find out where your best client, the one that you love to work with, where they are, either by asking your present best clients or doing polls, marketing, figuring out, okay, where do they spend the most time? Are they on Facebook most? Are they on Instagram most? Are they on LinkedIn most? Concentrate on 1 or 2 to get started. And then when you're really good at those 1 or 2, think about adding 1 more.
Yeah.
And then when you get good at that one, think about adding 1 more.
Yeah.
And when you're ready to hire a virtual assistant, you can start adding more. But
right.
Nobody, I can't be everywhere, and I'm on all of them in some form. But it just, you can't do it all, and you will get overwhelmed to the point that I find a lot of people just say, it's not working, I'm not going to do anything.
Right.
And then you're really up a creek because you're not out there at all.
Yeah. I actually got into, I'm going to put air quotes around an argument with someone who, this was a couple of years ago, she said, you need to be on Snapchat. And I said, well, I'm not going to be on Snapchat. And she said, no, you really need to be there. So I'm not going to be on Snapchat. I'm not doing it. I'm lucky I can do what I'm doing right now. I'm not adding Snapchat. I don't need one more thing to have to learn and then to do, I'm not doing that. And yeah, we went round and round. I just said, I don't care what you say. I'm not doing it. It's just, yeah, I'm not.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think there are these folks who, and maybe I'm projecting or judging, but I see a lot of people who are focused on learning, and they're not actually putting stuff out there. Do you
Yes.
see that at all?
I do see that, and then they're jumping around. They're like on this platform for a little bit, and then they go and like they are on this platform for a little bit, and then we forget about them. And it's like, oh wait, they're back on the platform. Well, it just if your clientele, and let me just a little bit that I know about your clientele, they're not on Snapchat. I have tried Snapchat for fear that one of my clients would need it, and I'd have to be able to explain it to them. And I've tried it a few times on my own. I do like playing with the little filters when I get bored.
Yeah.
It truly is not where my client is going to be. And so I don't need to figure it out. And luckily none of my clients, and actually the last, I think it was the Pew report, the users of Snapchat are one of the few social platforms that are going down.
Okay. How about that? Yeah, and that was pretty much the conclusion I came to. My audience trust me, they're not worrying about Snapchat. And anyway, so yeah, I think that's really wise advice, and your point about people who jump around is well taken. So I don't know if this happened recently or if this is the judgment that I'm giving it, but I recently had a bunch of people ask to join my Facebook group. Mm-hmm. And I haven't let them in. And one reason is because I see this giant gap on their Facebook, because I check people out before I let them in. I don't just approve them. Mm-hmm. And I see this big gap, and it makes me and maybe they are fakes, maybe they're some kind of nefarious person, but it just makes me not feel good when I don't see sustained performance or engagement in one platform.
Yeah, and they could be on Facebook to do their Facebook page. I do have some clients that have a profile, so they're not posting to their personal profile because they're busy on their page. Yeah. But if they're not acting as a person on Facebook, if they don't want those interpersonal communications, if they don't want to participate in anything as a person and just want to promote their page, then they may not be right. So
that's a really good point.
It's Facebook, especially if we're going to get specific. Facebook wants us to be a person first on Facebook, and the page second. Yeah. That's part of their terms of why we're on Facebook.
Yeah, that's a great point. So let's talk about this issue of engagement. Can you start by just defining what that is for people?
Engagement, to me, is having conversations where we are responding to people with more than just the thumbs up, which is great, but good, better, best. And good, better, best have changed. But good is if you do a like, a thumbs up, a smile, or a heart. Better is if you share it with your people. And I always say, no matter which platform you are, if you're sharing a link, if you're sharing a video, if you're sharing one of these things out, tell people why you're sharing it. Yeah. What point touches you to where they can go look at it and make their own. Don't just hit share and be done with it.
Right.
But even better now, share used to be the best, but I think share has now gone down, and the best now is to make comments, even to the point where asking questions to where the person's responding to you and you are having a conversation. If you do want that engagement, it's getting the conversation. So when somebody does make a comment, there are a few comments that you do need to ignore, otherwise you're just going to have a situation. But the ones who truly want to have the conversation, respond back to them, and try and respond back as with anything, respond back with another question so that you keep the conversation going.
Yeah, that's a great point. Years ago, a friend of mine said it's social media, not social media. It's not all about you.
Right.
The emphasis is supposed to be on the social part, and I think a lot of us can sometimes forget that.
Yes, it's not called a social marketing program.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know though it can
Social.
it can be really depressing when you post something and you get, crickets, just absolutely nothing. Do you have any really basic tips that you can share that can help us get engagement with our content?
Post a variety of items. Do pictures. I actually had a post on my own Facebook page last week asking people, what types of posts do you like? And of course, the best thing that I've ever done still today is post pictures of yourself at events, at networking events, at conferences.
Yeah.
People like those, and maybe share something that you are learning and maybe ask them, something about that topic, or again, you're encouraging the comments.
Yeah.
People like seeing pictures of people, again, the social part of it.
Yeah.
And, videos, as you and I both know, Facebook Live is still Facebook's baby. So putting yourself out there with a smile and a video is a great tool to share a little bit of your expertise, to position yourself as the knowledge-based person in your realm of expertise. And then just regular pictures, inspirational quotes. But then don't just post the quote, but have a thought about it. Again, to where you start getting some engagement, some comments back. You don't want to just post, here's this product, here's this service, because people start tuning you out. They really do. In fact, I can remember a friend telling me that they were going to unfriend somebody who was a realtor because all they shared on their personal profile was when their latest open house was. And they were like, I'm not on Facebook to see that.
Yeah,
and, shared more than, but if that's all she's doing, that's not for me.
Yeah, and I have to tell you that that was really hard for me. I'm not kidding. It's not like I'm just an all about me person, but I'm really a lot more private than I think people think, or that I maybe present. And so I would go the opposite extreme because I'm a private person, and because I don't like to take pictures of myself, and I don't have I'm not one of these people who's got their first of all, I don't carry my phone with me all the time, which is bad enough. So I had to really work at that aspect of it. I didn't just always share stuff about my business. I mean, I shared a lot of business articles or things like that other people wrote. But I had a really hard, and of course, animal pictures, but I had a really hard time even sharing pictures of my own cats. I just, it's just I guess it's the introvert in me. And I think that we need to remind people that that old adage, we do business with those we know, like, and trust, right? Yes. So we've got to give them something to know, like, and trust.
Yeah, and I am by no means and I'm like you. I don't share everything.
Yeah.
There are many people that as soon as they friend me, I mark them as an acquaintance. And so when I want to share stuff about my family, usually I will choose the option that says friends accept acquaintances, to where I can share those fun things that are going on with my family that I don't need the world to know about. But so I'm by no means saying that we need to share everything that we do every minute of our lives, but just pull the curtain back a little bit and get them to know a little bit about you as a person, as well as you as the business person. And so by showing yourself out at networking events, you are showing that you're a person without letting them into your home. Although I've seen a few pictures of your cat, and I think it's a very sweet one, so I hope to see more of him.
Thank you. Yes, I try to show more of them than there are of me. But as I was It's going to sound silly, but since we're on Facebook together, you will know this. I, in my effort to think like, all right, well, what am I going to share about people? And plus we're trying to stand out, right? Let's be honest with each other. We're trying to stand out. You know, by now I have a giant sock collection. I am just crazy about.
I look forward to seeing which socks are today's the socks of the day.
And I regularly, I'll go through spurts where I will show my socks. Today, my feet are freezing and I have just fuzzy socks on. But yeah, so, and when I started doing that, believe it or not, people actually started to mail me socks. So, or they would, I've had people send me pictures of their socks. So it's some kind of connection. And I think that's really part of the point of all of this is if you just do this from a business standpoint, you're missing out. It's this personal stuff that often strengthens that bond, right?
It does. It does. And you know, if I'm walking through the mall and I pass a sock store or sock rack, Winnie, I'm going to think of you now.
Think of me.
You know, one of our coaches loves Brussels sprouts. I had to laugh. I was going down the highway and there was a bar, you know, place that's trying to open itself up for lunch. And they're like lunch and dinner. And the picture that they had was roasted Brussels sprouts. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm not sure that that's going to get me in, but it's going to get some people in.
It is. And of course, your first thought also, or maybe your second thought was of Molly who loves Brussels sprouts. So yeah, that's exactly right. It is part of that know, like, and trust and standing out from people.
Yeah.
So,
and making yourself again top of mind with a good thing or a fun thing rather than, you know, oh, she's the social media coach, the social butterfly. Although I like being known as the social butterfly, even if they, you know, sometimes they'll say, you're the social butterfly, but they can't remember my name. That's fine with me. They still know what
that's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's awesome. So now you did mention quickly that, you know, at some point you need to get a VA. So what signs are there that, okay, I got to get help with this?
The signs are when you start missing out on things, when you really are struggling to get everything posted, when the checkbook allows, you know, don't do it before the checkbook allows. But one of my business coaches years ago asked, she said, who is still, you know, cleaning their house? And there were a few people who raised their hands, and she's like, think about it. If you could be making phone calls during the hour or so they're there and bringing in money, are you going to bring in more money than the hours she's spending? And, you know, so if you can know that the hours that you are spending to hire them, you're going to be on the phone or making prospecting calls or even providing services that's more than you're going to spend on them, then that's kind of the sign that it's time. But really when you start feeling like, okay, I've got enough to do that's bringing in business, that I'm dropping, the marketing side, because you want to stay in front of people and let people see that you're still open and around and doing business.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all of that. And it can be so hard to do that. But at some point, I was just having this conversation today with one of my coaching groups that, you know, and I'm talking to myself here too. It's just, otherwise, we've set ourselves up to have a job and not really a business when everything has to be done by us, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about hiring somebody to handle social posting. What are some kind of best practices, if you will, about working with somebody and having them do it?
Making sure that they understand who you are and how, you know, what your messaging is. Making sure that when it is, when they're posting for you on social media, it still sounds like you, that they've got your voice.
Yes.
That they know what your colors are, that they're not just going to go grab some post off of another site and share it as yours, but they're going to create something that is with your colors, with your branding, with your images. You know, making sure that it still sounds like you. at times really pick out. It's like, ooh, they're having somebody else do it, and it doesn't sound or look like them.
Right.
They bought a package of stuff that they're just sharing, that they're not even changing the colors.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So if there was one thing that you think entrepreneurs really need to know about using social media with the intention to grow their business, what would you say that is?
Having them think about how they're carrying people through the journey of learning about you, to getting to know you, to hiring you. Making sure that you have a clear picture of where you want that journey to take people and how they're going to be.
Yes.
I'm even kind of re-going through that and making sure that I haven't gotten off track, that I haven't sent people down a different path from how I want to take them, but really thinking about the path and knowing the steps yourself. So many people say, oh, hire somebody to do your social media. I do think, and that's why, I kind of teach people how to do it themselves, to where when they're ready to go hire that VA, they know how it's done and they know the steps. They can explain it very well.
Yeah.
I find so many people, they're hiring people and they have no clue, even what it's, what that person's going to do, and they have a hard time having the conversation. Just make it happen. It's not just going to happen.
And then you can't really manage them. You can't really hold them accountable because you don't really know what they could do in that time frame, et cetera. And I applauded when you said, know the journey. I was, again, just doing a coaching session with my group before our call, and this was exactly the conversation we were having. So if you're listening to this, you want to definitely look out for the information I'm going to be putting out about this. I refer to it as the buying highway, and the billboard content is how I describe it, as the things that really speak to the audience and drive them towards a specific kind of behavior. It's pointing them in the right direction, just like a billboard does on a highway, but it's that big content, and maybe that big content is your opt-in gift, or it's an ebook or a video or questionnaire.
Right.
So great.
Yeah. So you have your journey on the highway, you have all the billboards that you have on social media. Maybe the opt-in is the gas station that's right off the exit, but you don't want them to get back on the highway. You want them to come into the small town and shop and stay a while and be a tourist.
Yes, exactly.
So if you're using the highway, idea.
Yep. You want to get people to your ultimate destination where they work with you, and then they don't go. But of course, we know that attracting, repelling is also important. So if you want people to know, this is what I'm all about, don't come down this road if you're not interested in that, keep going. I think that's an important thing to keep in mind as well, that we really don't want to attract people who aren't a good fit, who we don't want to serve, who aren't going to work well with us. So, yeah.
And knowing that perfect client and who that imperfect or the client that you don't want to work with at all, that you have a hard time saying no to, because we're entrepreneurs. I mean, every dollar does count, but if you're spinning your wheels trying to work with somebody, and I'm sure all of us have done it. If you haven't, congrats to you. But most people I know have that one client that we tried to work with because we wanted to help them, and it just they weren't right, no matter how we could make it. So repelling the wrong client, attracting the right client.
That's exactly right. And it's a dance. So Ellen, this has been great information. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. Where can everybody go to learn more about you? And you know what, why don't you take a second to explain fully what it is that you do and who you do work with, and then tell them where they can go to learn more.
Okay, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ellen McDowell, your social butterfly, and I alleviate the overwhelm of online marketing for the non-tech savvy self-employed. So I take you from that OMG, I can't do this, to the OMG, I've got this and I'm doing better at it. And I do that with my community that I call the Online Marketing GPS, thus OMG. And what I'd like to start with helping people is, come like my Facebook page and watch my weekly Chat with the Butterfly. And if you are unsure about whether your Facebook profile and your Facebook page is attracting the right people, my opt-in is a Facebook review. I will record a 2-minute video that kind of has a go through of what I see on your page and your profile, your personal profile, and then I'll send that to you and we'll see where you are and maybe where you need to be.
Awesome. Awesome. Fantastic. And your website again for them?
Is ellenmcdowell.com.
Awesome. And I'll have a link to that right on the show notes, as well as links to all the other places where you can find Ellen. She's on Facebook, but I know she's everywhere. So we'll include those as well. And thanks again, Ellen. It's been great chatting.
Thank you so much for having me, Wendy. This was a blast.
All right, I hope you found that helpful. If you like this episode, please share it with your connections. Please leave a great review for it on the platform where you consumed it. You can become a fan of the show and access back episodes and resources by going to couragepodcastfan.com and signing up for The Vault. It's free, of course, and includes back episodes from every season, along with bonus content and resources all in one place. In addition to the episodes, you'll get information, tips, and resources to help you get clarity on your message and get the courage and confidence you need to get your message out in a more powerful way so you reach your business goals. All right, so your cocktail exercise, otherwise known as a reflection exercise. Now, alcohol needs to be involved. Don't overindulge and don't drink and drive. All right, so your reflection exercise is to think about your social media activities and ask yourself if they're strategic, or do you just sort of post stuff randomly? And your action step, look at what you're sharing. Are you posting a good mix of information? About 70% should be useful, educational information that doesn't specifically sell something that you're selling, but comes from a client-focused place where you educate, elevate, and inspire. Then you share some personal stuff and you share some business-related stuff that invites people to take the next step. Sometimes that next step is to connect with you by offering something that they need so that they have to opt in to get. Sometimes it's to investigate working with you. Sometimes it's to make a purchase and work with you at a deeper level or purchase a course or your book. But your biggest action step is to focus on developing relationships with people. It really is called social networking for a reason. If you like this episode, please share it. And remember, you can become a fan of the show and get access to The Vault, which has all the back episodes in both audio and video format, as well as bonus material. You can find that at couragepodcastfan.com. And in addition to the episodes, you'll get information, tips, and resources to help you come out of hiding, get your message out in a more powerful way, and achieve your business goals so you can profit from your expertise. And if you're an introverted solo professional or someone with introverted leanings and you'd like to hang out online with a community of like-minded and like-personality professionals, then head over to winnieanderson.com/join the group and join my Courageous Success community on Facebook. It's for introverted, mission-driven entrepreneurs. It's where I share tips and strategies to help you achieve the success you dream of and deserve in alignment with your beliefs, values, and personality. Thanks for listening. And remember, you deserve all the success you dream of.